and welcome to another episode of the If They Can Do It podcast, the podcast that interviews absolutely ordinary people who do extraordinary things and wants you walking away thinking, hey, if they can do it, so can I. And this week, my friends, this week, we are actually going to do, I'm not sure we've done this before on this podcast, but we are going to do kind of a topical interview. I'm not sure if it's just the part of life that I'm in where Kendra and I are about to have our second little one. And whenever big changes happen in your life, I have a new job. There's a lot of changes that are going on. Confidence seems to be a thing for me where it's like, oh my gosh, like, how do I get my bearings? How do I step up to the plate and bring my best self to my life? And the good thing is I know that I am not alone. So what did I do? I thought of every person who I know. I'm scrolling Instagram like it's a phone book going, who has some expertise in confidence that I can learn from? And this woman, y'all, I can tell you that I have served with her at church, and the way she is talented. She's a mother. She is so grounded in her beliefs that if I could have just a little slice of this pie of confidence that she has learned to carry so well, I know that my life and my family would be better for it. And so without further ado, Dianne, how's it going?
Hi, Isaac. Thanks for having me. When you said ordinary people, I just want to raise my hand. I'm so ordinary. Extreme how ordinary I am.
Well, let's go into that. Like, tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Okay. Um, I say that knowing obviously my identity in Christ, that none of us are really ordinary when we realize who we are and whose we are. So I'm a mom of 4. I'm a wife of 10, almost 11 years now. My husband's name is Corey. He's amazing. He works at GCU, a big university here in town. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. Go Lopes! And we just have a suburban house and are raising little souls. I have a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 3-month-old. 2 girls, 2 boys. They all start with S's, which I don't know why I did that. Now when I call someone's name, it's like Selah, Shiloh, Shepherd, Sage, whoever you are. Well, it's been great. Like this this journey that I'm on has really just been using whatever God has given me to do whatever I can for God's kingdom. That is truly like how I could sum my life up, using everything that He has given me for His kingdom. And that's where I literally fall into that category of ordinary, because I just truly believe like God has given each of us the tools to make His burden, His heart known in our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, there's so much there, just because a theme in kind of talking to people on the podcast has really been, if we're talking about the topic of confidence, has really been a belief in what's in our hand can do anything at all, and not being angry at it,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've definitely been there. I think we all go through moments of lacking confidence. I'm not sure I'm not sure if confidence is one of those things that's easy to find all the time. But I almost see it as like joy. Joy versus happiness.
Mm-hmm.
You can have confidence that is that steady river that kind of just flows in your life that you don't really question, you know whose you are.
Mm-hmm.
But then those moments of having to actually show up and potentially impress or rise to an occasion, that is where you have to dig deep and actually access that river of confidence that hopefully you've been keeping flowing with the Lord the whole time. It's when you don't have that river flowing at all and you haven't been nurturing and making sure you've got enough in you, that when you are asked to show ability or talent or, prowess of any kind, you're not going to come up with anything. Your bucket's going to be empty, probably because you haven't been watering your own river.
Yeah. Yeah. When has been a time then where you've realized a situation and you're like, ooh, I have not been feeding. This is not, I'm not ready.
Yeah. Oh man. Let's think. I did an audition when I was about 20 years old for the University of Phoenix Stadium at the time. It was for the Cardinals and it was for doing the national anthem. And I got there and I got in line with all these other people. It was like 100 people. And it was basically just a big season, open season for auditions. So I
Mm-hmm.
go in, I completely forgot the words. I had so much, I was so cocky. I thought, well, it's
Yeah.
the national anthem. We all know the national anthem. I did not take into account any kind of preparation. And I fumbled so hard that the judges like were making eye contact with me at first, and then they all just started looking down at their papers. And I left and I never got a call. I mean, it was the worst audition I've ever had. And
Yeah.
I realized like I didn't do anything to prepare. And I learned from that. I mean, that was, gosh, 16 years ago.
Uh-huh.
I learned that you should never just depend on some kind of like backlog or some kind of memory of when you were hardworking. You should be hardworking.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting because an experience like that, and I feel that so deeply. That
Oh,
happening.
it was awful, Isaac.
So I guess first off, so what did you do? Did you have to like pull up the lyrics on your phone? Or like what did you just make things up?
I literally just fumbled the words and I think I stopped early. Like I literally like stopped the song early.
Yeah.
It was the most cringy thing you've ever seen.
Yeah. You're just like, judges, you know, I know. It's been real.
Yeah.
Have a blessed day.
I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting, like the layers of confidence. Like you were saying, like there's a baseline and then there's like a rising to an occasion there.
Mm,
I think what can happen, and I've seen it happen with my friends, is take an instance like that.
mm.
What makes you take a situation like that and not just go, whoop, I shouldn't be singing?
Oh, well, Isaac, to answer your question, I didn't sing the national anthem in public again for 12 years.
Oh,
I
yeah.
took so much time, maybe 14 years. I mean, I took so much time and I made every excuse in the book. People would ask me, you know, for games and like little things that were going on in the community. Hey, can you come sing the national anthem? And I had every excuse not to do it. I would always just
Wow.
either, you know, oh, I can't make it. Or then if I got pressed, it would be, okay, I have these reasons. Everyone compares you to their favorite version
Yeah.
of the national
Yeah.
anthem. Everyone's looking for you to screw up, or they're looking for you to wow them in some new way they've never heard before. They're
Mm-hmm.
also looking for that big high note. And it's like everyone turns into a judge the minute that they are hearing the national anthem. You usually don't have lyrics.
Yep.
You usually don't have in ear monitors, so you can't hear yourself very well. It's really setting me up for the worst, right? So I
Yeah.
would just tell people that, like, oh, guys, like, it's just not something I do anymore. I just don't do it. And I said, no, no, no. Well, then one day, my friend Gary Gillespie, who is one of the head people in production at Footprint Center
Mm-hmm.
for the Phoenix Suns, asked me to do the national anthem. And again, I said no. And he prodded. And I'm so glad he did because it was during COVID.
Okay.
And so he said, you know what, we're having games, but there's not really a live audience. Would you be okay with us pre-recording it? You could have lyrics in front of you. You don't have any eyes on you. You're just in the
Mm-hmm.
studio, just you and the microphone. Can you do that? Okay, Gary. So I do that. Okay, the next time he calls me, it's like a month or two later. Hey, we loved it. We'd like you to come back. Listen, we're going to have you on this little kind of more private stage in the stands. So you're not going to be on the court. There's going to be just one little camera on you. No big deal. Okay, Gary. Then the next time, all right, now we actually want you on the court. I ended up doing it 5 times, Isaac. And the
Wow.
last time was for the NBA semifinals. And guess who's like feet away from me? LeBron James, Devin Booker. I can't make this stuff up. The Lord is
Yeah.
humorous with how he uses my no and turns it into a yes. And I begrudgingly would do each one of these anthems just to basically let my husband go see some great games.
Yeah. Yeah. That's love. That's love.
No, every time I was like, honey, I am doing this solely for you.
uh,
But you know what? I am so grateful because what I wanted to kind of drive home today when you told me to talk about confidence or you asked me to
yeah.
share about my journey with confidence, it's this. And I heard this from Alex Hormozy, who is a guy that I follow. It's like a business guy.
Yeah.
He said, confidence is really just evidence. That changed me. It
Hmm.
completely changed me to go, okay, I have heard so much just like, what is the word? Woo woo talk
Hmm.
about like, just believe in yourself, manifest it. It's going to happen if you think it.
Yeah.
That can happen. I think there's power sometimes in that, just like pushing forward, even though you don't have any evidence.
Hmm.
However, I think the strongest people are people who build evidence in their lives.
Yeah. No, that's so good, and it's so practical too, because even in your story of the national anthem, like that was just a process of building little pieces of evidence, where the
Yeah.
first piece of evidence is I could sing a song even if it's in a studio. I can sing this song that I didn't know the words to even if it's in a studio by myself, and these little baby steps
Yeah.
into that it wasn't like, yeah, and then I forgot the words, and then I was asked to have LeBron James and Devin Booker like right next to me, right? Like that's really hard to build the evidence to be able to do that. And it's probably would have been worse for your confidence, you know.
Totally.
And so to have these little wins, like little wins that you put in your back pocket to trust yourself with,
Yes.
that's been, I love that was even more concise with the word evidence,
Mm.
because I've been thinking a lot, obviously, which is why I asked you like about confidence. And in any area of your life, the way I've been thinking about it is all confidence it is the process of learning how to trust yourself with something.
Oh.
You
Oh,
know,
that's
and
good.
and so if you aren't confident as a spouse or as a parent,
Mm.
what are those little things in the studio with just a mic to build a little piece of evidence of, okay, this is a step in the right direction. Okay,
Yeah.
this is a step in the right direction, kind of a thing, versus thinking that you have to be singing the national anthem in front of LeBron James, like over here. Right. And so, how do you learn to trust yourself? And it's just like trusting anything else. There's these little things where, oh, yeah, I asked them to do this. They did a great job last time, and it just doing that. And it's tough, but I also think it takes the pressure off of having to like build hype in yourself. If there's
Totally.
just enough hype, then maybe I can hit that note that I was trying to, that I've never hit before. But if I just like have enough hype in myself, I could do it. Right. And that's one thing. Like, I want to thank you because you do have, you are an entrepreneur and you teach people. You're a vocal teacher, right? And
Mhm.
even your tips on Instagram, I can't
Mhm.
even tell you when we're talking about trust and evidence, where I'm like, whoa, okay, I would approach this song going, I wonder how this song is going to go today, because I can't control my instrument enough, like on this bridge, to know if it's going to be a good day or bad day.
Here it goes.
And yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so it's not even that I'm a better singer per se, but I'm a more confident
Yeah.
singer and know how to approach things better. So like, thank you for helping
Oh,
me go through that process too.
that's so awesome. I mean, the evidence that you're putting into your gift is giving you the confidence you're getting out of your gift.
Yeah.
So every time we set down to actually train, we're reinforcing positive evidence in our body and in our brain to trust ourselves, just like you said. And then that trust actually communicates calm to
Mm-hmm.
the spirit, to the body. And so singing is so much of what we call predictive work. So when you're singing, you're actually always thinking about 3 words ahead, 3 notes ahead. We don't think about it like that, but we're never really actually in the moment with our brain. If so, we wouldn't be able to operate as humans.
Mm-hmm.
The brain's always thinking at least one step ahead. This step ahead system is it's set on the precedent that you have steps behind you. And
Mm-hmm.
those steps behind confirm, confirm, confirm. We're doing well. We've done well. And it's just informing the actual present moment. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I see God all over that. Like who
Yeah.
God's been shows us who he is, and it shows us who he will be. And we
Yeah.
can trust that God, this evidence building God, just coming through and coming through and coming through. So
Yeah.
I love how much I see God's hand in all of our skills and principles and just the entire universe. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. How big of a problem do you think when it comes to confidence that people have like for the sake of the conversation I'll just call it Abraham syndrome, where it's like you know something, you see the future, you've been told the future,
Yeah.
but the future isn't now yet, and that's the most frustrating thing, and so you try to force it into now. So a little bit of context when I say Abraham's syndrome, I essentially mean Abraham is a character in the Bible where it was promised you're going to be the father of nations. In other words, going to have a lot of kids. But homeboy was old, and so the clock is ticking, and there's some practical things that are coming up on it. And so he kind of took it into his own hands, and long story short, messed things up, or
Yeah.
or took detours. They're definitely detours, right? In there, and I know for me, like professionally, or there are things that I want to happen right now. But I'm not in the space for it to happen right now. Now is not the time. And do you think the reason why so many people struggle with confidence is the fact that they aren't working with what is right now and frustrated that they aren't the person that they're working towards yet?
Wow. I mean, you bringing that up to me, I completely agree. I would say that even when I think about my clients, my students, the ones who have the most success are the ones who are not impatient. The more
Mm-hmm.
patient you can be and have grace towards yourself, you are going to see the fruit of that grace yield success. So it's like if you have grace and you just keep plodding along, keep doing your practices, keep putting in the work, going to the gym, eating right, like all the things that can actually make work happen, they usually have a long-term journey.
Mm-hmm.
If you stop at any point along that journey and turn back, you just cut yourself off from all that fruit.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm just listening to you preach, brother. Like that was really good. And I wish I could help people see the future them.
Yeah.
I have a client who is a touring artist. She's doing shows and she's singing better than she ever has. And she told me the other day over FaceTime, she goes, I wish I could take like the voice that I have now and send it back to who I was and show myself where you're going to be in just 2 months or 3 months.
Yeah.
I wish I could show myself who I am now to the person who I once was. But even let's think about that in our personal journeys. I look at myself, I have 4 children, I have an awesome marriage. I'm actually like a business owner. Like I never thought that would happen. I get to do what I love for a living. If I could just take a snapshot of my life and show it to who I was even 3 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I would be blown away. So think forward. In the
Mm-hmm.
next 3 years, you're going to be someone that you don't even recognize in a great way
Mm-hmm.
if you put in the evidence, put in that work, and almost imagine yourself as you already are that 3 years forward person. You're just
Yeah.
living in the present. So I actually manifested this. It's so funny. Like that word is very hot right now. So forgive me. But I remember standing in that moment doing the national anthem right before getting on the court. And I mean, I'm calming my breath down. I'm like, rehearse, 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 getting my key right because you cannot hear a thing when you're in that
Yeah.
stadium. And I literally, in my mind, thought 1 minute after the national anthem was over, I thought about what's it going to be like when the anthem is over. And I basically put myself in that frame of mind where I was like, wow, that went really well.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't miss a note. I remembered all my words. I can have a margarita now.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Exactly.
Because Lord knows you cannot drink before you sing, by the way. You completely lose all control. So
Yeah.
I was waiting. All my friends were partying and having fun at the game. And I was like, I will wait.
Yeah.
Um, but I was just thinking about that moment of relief and that
Yeah.
moment of pride and feeling like it's done. I'm on this other side of it and I feel incredible.
Yeah.
And harnessing that person, that minute after person for
Yeah.
me, it changed everything. I like literally was like, I'm just going to basically get out of my own body, float above this event,
Yep.
and watch it happen. watch
Yeah.
God go. So I don't know if
Yeah.
that's helpful for you in anything you're facing. Is there something right now that you're like, I need confidence for this, like coming up in your life or?
Oh, geez. Well, even with our baby girl due here
Yes.
in August, right? That's gonna be anytime. It's just like, oh my gosh. Okay, so I think I know how to roughhouse with our boy, but like a girl is like different. And so what am I gonna be like? And I mean, it's more unknown. It's more probably more anxiousness than confidence.
Yeah.
Um, but even like being a parent, I think I've gotten more confidence from the fact of having more grace for my parents going, y'all didn't know anything. You were like, you had me when you were 20. Like, I'm glad I came out with just the trauma I did because that would have been a heck of a lot worse.
Yeah. And they
You
did not
know, like
have
that kind of thing.
they didn't have the internet to tell them what to do. We have
Yeah.
so many resources at our fingertips.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, I think like right now, being being a good parent and like stewarding that well is
Yeah.
very much on my radar. And I think a lot of it has just been because I've been away from the family since March. I've been in Texas while they've been in Phoenix,
Mm.
because starting a new job and like all that kind of stuff
Mhm.
out here. And so there's there's an element of that, but there's also been, because there's been this space, I've been able to learn from people who I admire as parents and
Mm.
have like the space to really take it in and like ask questions and do that I wouldn't have had if they were here, you know? And
Yeah.
so I think I've leveraged that pretty well, but who knows? Who knows? Parenting is definitely one of those things where it's like, yeah, I know how I'll be, and then you don't know how you'll be. You have no
And
idea.
every kid is so different. But
Right.
you got to think, okay, who's the Isaac? Who's the dad of that beautiful little girl? Not in August, but come January.
Yeah.
Like you'll have been through the sleep training, you'll have been through the delivery, I mean, all the things, and
Hmm.
you'll have a sense of normalcy. Even at that point, there's a little bit more normalcy. Can I embrace and somehow harness that calm and that
Yeah.
confidence of that person? Because, God doesn't live by these moments we live by, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if he's outside time. That's something that theologians always say about God is that God is outside time, but that's also been questioned. Um, I do believe actually God interacts a lot with time, but God doesn't worry about tomorrow
Hmm.
because he just trusts that he will be tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so how can we like imagine that January Isaac when we're in the middle of August Isaac,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
take
It's
that
so
to
true.
any exponential point you want.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's also, you just saying that just also made me think of being okay when there's seasons of like dryness and seasons of
Yes.
of fruit, right? Like the ground doesn't get mad because nothing's growing when it's January. Like there's nothing
Yeah.
out of the ordinary of that.
Oof. Yeah.
Right? Like there's nothing weird where people are like, well, it's December. Why aren't the fields filled with all this like stuff? Well, it's because December isn't for that,
Ooh, that's
you know?
so good.
And so it's there's so many elements to that I'm just like, okay, all right. It helps you kind of have grace for yourself of what kind of
Mm.
seasons there is. And then there's also an appreciation for your spouse of going like, thank you for covering this. And while I'm in this thing and this partnership, that's a lot of what makes that partnership work, and being able to communicate what season are you in versus what I'm in, because we are individual people doing this thing and leading this thing, our family together, you know?
Totally. It's like always when I'm at my low that Corey pulls up the high. Like he can like we basically just average out as being good parents by the end of the day because man,
Yeah.
there's times when I hit my limit and then he sails in and then times when he hits his limit and I have to sail in. But like that seasons idea is so strong. This time is not necessarily going to be forever.
Yeah.
So what can I learn from it? Everything that benefits you is a win. Everything that doesn't benefit you isn't really a loss, it's just a lesson.
Yeah. Yeah.
What am I going to learn from it?
And yeah, and nothing's wasted. Like that's not even like putting on rose-colored glasses about it. Like
Totally.
it could either work that you put into the thing that didn't work, could be just a black hole of things, but like that's super nihilistic to think that only the times you succeed was worth anything. And then there's also the level of entitlement of going, I worked really hard, therefore this outcome I'm entitled to because I worked really hard. And because I have these talents and I've nurtured these talents. I think about the national anthem audition that you were talking about, surrounded by singers, right? Each individual person is unique and special, but not special in the fact that everybody can sing,
Mm.
and like that audition process, that's part of the humbling thing about it is like, if you're auditioning for a show, everybody's talented. Everybody can do it. And are
Yeah.
you comfortable with being you enough to be like, here's who I am right now, and let the chips fall where they may and learn things from whatever happens. It's a being human.
Yeah.
The
And I
human
think
thing.
we have so much exposure to influencers
Mm-hmm.
that we feel like we have to be influential, but in a certain way. And I think that we all are influential in
Mm-hmm.
our own circles. And that's honestly how God designed life to work, where
Mm-hmm.
I'm the mom of my family. I am so incredibly influential in my home. Do I need to be influential to all the homes on the street? No. But having this heightened pressure and awareness of what other people are doing in their homes now that I can see the inside of everyone's home on
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, and I can weigh in with comments and horrible trolling if I wanted to,
Yeah.
it's it's a very freaky experience to be able to have this much insight into other people's lives, and I don't think it's natural.
No.
And so
Oh, that's
I just
so
wish we
funny.
could all like sit back a little bit and go, this is not natural that I even know what you had for breakfast, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And even like the notion of, scaling that out, how, I don't know if this is the right word, but it's not a human thing.
No,
Like celebrity isn't a human
no.
thing. Like, can you imagine, because you're a vocalist, you completely understand this. Can you imagine being like Christina Aguilera or something where in the studio, it's like, all right, your voice is completely hydrated. You know that there's this note on this track that is for tomorrow, and you're going to hit it for this recording. But then you have this world tour that note is expected by everybody else. And you're like, do you know
Yeah,
what the preparation it took for me to hit that one time and how many takes it took for that one time?
yeah.
Where other people's expectations of not even of you, but who they think you are in every aspect, like that's just, yeah, it's a very unnatural thing. I love
It
that
is
you said
so
that.
unnatural. Ask Bon Jovi. He can't sing Living on a Prayer. He just takes his microphone, he goes, "Oh, we're halfway there." And then
Yeah,
he
right, right. I
he
mean,
lets the audience sing it because it's like,
yeah,
who's gonna expect this every time?
yeah, yeah. Now,
Yeah.
there's an other element as we're talking about confidence, which we've talked about, like confidence going forward and like confidence being built. But
Hmm.
what about like confidence that you aren't picking up that you should? So here's what I mean by that. So somebody, I'll give you a little microcosmal story. It doesn't have to be about this specifically. So somebody who does not have confidence. So for example, a lot of people know on this podcast, but like I was 80 pounds heavier just 2 years ago there. And I got to that point because I felt a certain way about myself and felt that I deserved to treat myself a certain way, which was not good. I lose the weight, but the self perception of myself, the hardest word to get out of a vocabulary of somebody who's lost a lot of weight is fat. They will always see themselves as that. And it's not the physical being fat, it's what they think that person was worth in that physical state. And you're in a different place. You have these pieces of evidence that your life has changed and that things are doing that, but you haven't picked up the confidence and walked in the confidence that you should, that this has been worked really hard for. You're able to move around a lot better. Your energy's better, and life is not the same as when before. So, what's your kind of perspective on confidence retroactively, where you should be picking it up but you don't?
Wow. I think back to when I was in high school. I was overweight. I had cystic acne.
Uh-huh.
I had braces for 4 years. And that kind of stuff on a young woman really
Yeah.
takes a toll when all your friends are getting asked out and you're not, and you don't
Mm-hmm.
have your boyfriend, and you don't have your first kiss, and you don't have all those things that all
Mm-hmm.
your friends have. Um, And then I turned 20 and hormones changed and I got my braces off and I took Accutane. Like I did a lot to just improve my life.
Yeah.
Moved to California. I went and moved in with my sister who had a home in Costa Mesa, California. So it was a
Okay.
gorgeous place. It was just a
Yeah.
whole lifted, elevated life when I turned around 18. I still felt like that girl who didn't get the attention of guys, didn't care for herself. I probably had like an eating disorder at the time. And I can completely resonate with you, Isaac, on I don't still feel this way, but
Mm-hmm.
having felt that way. And I really think that the evidence principle applies in this way. You must put your confidence in evidence over a long time. So you've lost the weight. I really think that the idea of you not being what you say fat is,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to fade with more and more evidence.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the puffy answer that everyone wants, which is like, just believe in yourself.
Yeah.
It's that, Isaac, you'll have to stay winning for another
Yeah.
year or two. And for you to go, okay, it's not coming back. I'm not
Yeah.
choosing the same habits. I'm not choosing the same foods. I'm not choosing the same thoughts.
Yeah.
So if in reality, I'm a very practical person, it's going to end up being you choosing for a little bit longer. And I
Yeah.
think that that does help fade the identity in who you were. Because once I actually started going out with boys and
Mm-hmm.
started like dressing the way I really wanted to and started feeling like energetic and just wasn't hanging myself back with all these barriers to me being social. And I it took about 2 years of me
Mm-hmm.
being uh, having those evidentiary facts in my life
Mm-hmm.
to go, okay, I am not that girl anymore, and that person's not coming back. I have a new I have a new identity. Now,
Yeah.
like that's very surface, right? Like the
Mm-hmm.
deepest part is that you are a child of God.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way that children of God treat their bodies should look different than the way that people who don't see themselves as children of God treat their
Mm-hmm.
bodies. And I think that that's the bedrock that really has changed in you.
Mm-hmm.
Truly. I
Yeah.
don't know everything about your journey,
Mm-hmm.
but I know you to be a man of God and a man of your faith, and so you knowing the truth about like, because I'm a Christ follower, because I'm someone who truly cares about the body I've been given, I'm going to keep walking this path and I will not return.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, does that any of that resonate? Was that harsh? I don't know.
No, no, I don't think any of that was harsh. Particularly, I think the piece about evidence.
Mm.
I love how practical it is because when it comes to confidence, both forward and backwards, it almost is an encouragement to be like, hey, be a Hardy Boy, be a Nancy Drew,
Mm,
and go searching for evidence
mm,
because that will make you like find gifts that maybe you don't even know that you had because you're like, whoa, yeah, I've been asked to be put in this situation a lot. Like, what is it? Like, what skill, what gift do I have that I'm not seeing? And the reason why I'm not seeing it is because I wake up as me every day.
oh,
So it's easy to me,
mm,
the same way that like it's easy for Kendra to get a mug out of the top shelf of our things and me being 5 foot tall. She takes that for granted and I don't, right? But we all have skills and strengths that we take for granted that other people have to struggle to do. And it's those little pieces of
yeah.
evidence going, why am I put in that situation so much? Wow, why am I asked to help with these sorts of things so much?
Mm,
Oh, wow. Okay. And you start attaching these stories that you can't refute because it would cause cognitive dissonance to say this person can't do
yeah,
this
you can't
when
be
they
both
can.
people.
Yeah. And that really brings up a story of a boss of mine when you say this is harsh, like a boss of mine, we were having one of our first one-on-ones, and we're
Mm,
talking about like corporate competencies, interpersonal savvy and like that. It's different skills that's going on. And one of the things, he's looking at my rankings of it, and being action oriented was one of the lowest things on my list. And he's like, Isaac, I actually have to call BS on this. He goes, and he was frustrated. He goes, I have to call BS on this because I can give you 5 instances in the little time that we've known each other that you've been action oriented. And so this is a problem because any team that you're on, anything that you are doing, if you're telling yourself you're action oriented, and I can think of 5 instances where you have been, you're impacting yourself because you're telling yourself wrong stories, and that is never ends well. But the people around you are being impacted because you could have helped them, and because of the story you're telling yourself you're not. And I was like, whoa, like that is huge. And being this little like detective who's picking up pieces of evidence actually helps self-awareness. And like kind of a funny thing, just talking about singing, is it almost keeps you from being that American Idol first round audition where they're horrible, right? Like, what are the pieces of evidence that tell you that you can sing beyond that one person that one time who said, like those sorts of things? And actually that's a question. I'm interested in what you have to say about this. Like, how do you not misplace your confidence in something like that, like being that person who can't sing, who's on American Idol, who can't sing?
Yeah. Well, I think it takes a community of feedback. So that's one of the best parts of the non-social media way of viewing ourselves, is we're actually three-dimensional to the people who live with us. We're two-dimensional to the people who don't live with us. So never take the words of the people who don't live with you as total truth. You can take a lot more investment in the feedback from people who truly see you 24/7, 360. And I think that that's kind of where those people probably went wrong, is they weren't either in a circle of people who were telling them the truth, which is our fault. We need to be open and honest with our family members, our friends, our community. But we also need to be looking for feedback and be open to feedback. And truly, when people love you, you're only going to be opening yourself to more growth. When whatever that piece of feedback is, if you can trust that person to not just be trying to tear you down, you are only going to grow from what feedback they're giving you. So I keep coming back to this idea that like your home, your close community, or whatever it is, a small group or your work team, those are the people that you should be influential with in either giving feedback or receiving feedback. And beyond that, it's just fun, or it's commerce.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Right?
I mean, this actually is an awesome channel. You doing this podcast, because you're pouring into people you don't know personally. And that's a really rare, beautiful side of social media that is not often seen. And I commend you for doing that, because I feel like you're making progress where a lot of the world is making the opposite progress. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love what you just said about like the two-dimensional thing on like Instagram and like social media, because what popped in my head is, yes, it's two-dimensional, but what's the dimension it's missing? Depth. And so it can't be deep by just necessity, by the limitation of the actual medium. The only way that you can get three-dimensional and get depth is by having those people actually around you who are living life with you, who experience you in 360, right? And who you can be vulnerable with. And that's a piece that a lot of people are missing, but that's step one. Like if you don't know how to build confidence or what you're good in, get people around you who care about you and just ask.
Oh,
Like
and the humility it takes to ask, the more you can root yourself in that God confidence, that true identity, the more you will actually be humble. Because when you ask, you're not just looking for self-deprecation or pumping yourself up. You're looking for truth. So just keep telling yourself the truth about yourself, and keep asking for the truth from those who know you. I mean, it's just so simple, but like we mess it up every day.
Yeah. Which is part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which is not like, I don't know. Yeah, we mess it up, and that's part of the process and part of what makes us do it better. I love it.
And that's why we need each other. We need each other to be those mirrors.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as we are rounding the bend here, I wanted, speaking of encouraging and stuff like that, we always have the last question of every episode. And that question is for you today, that there's going to be people who are listening and who are going to say, listen, I'm not a singer. You have great confidence in that. Fantastic. And you talked about, your wonderful marriage and all these things that you're grateful that you gained confidence in. I'm in the middle of that. I have absolutely no confidence, and I'm struggling that I even have something in my hand that's of worth. And so everything is shaken right now. Dan, what would you tell those people that if you can build your confidence, so can they?
If I can do it, so can you. We're just using what we have to do with it what can be done. And that's all that you're needed for. You don't need to be anything more than exactly who you are.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Like, I have loved this conversation.
Me
Like
too.
I'm going to be taking some notes. I'm going to be doing all of these things with it. I appreciate your time. And for those who are listening, don't forget, subscribe, leave a review, and not because, oh, yeah, no more subscribers, nothing like that. But there's rules to this game called podcasting. And if people are going to hear the stories on this podcast, it's what you got to do. So just remember, go out this week, do something to make you proud of you, all right? All right.
Yay!